Hey everybody, this is Marilyn. Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late here. Do we have any audio for this? We do. Thank you. Hello everybody, this is Marilyn and it's time for the noon edition plus a few minutes um, of Welcome to My World. This is the 27th day. I cannot believe April just left. 27th of April. So we only have one more trading day this month, and that's tomorrow. These indices markets this morning have been a little weird, I think. The NQ has spent 2.5 hours just kind of going nowhere. YM spent a whole lot of time going nowhere, and then it did move down. Came right on through settlement and kept going. And the ES, YM and ES pretty much moved on the same page today. The dollar looked a lot more encouraging, and I know some of you trade the euro dollar cross, and that did have some movement. The bonds had a nice move this morning, a really nice move, and the VAD called that very clearly. The 6J went right along with it. And I'm not sure what happened to this poor Canadian dollar this morning. Good grief. It's been everywhere. It was way up yesterday afternoon and way down this morning, and now it's coming back up a little bit. I think this crude oil has sure been a lot more difficult to trade over the last few weeks than it is at other times. Certainly last year at this time, it was a lot better. But there's so much stuff going on overseas, and the OPEC has been making more noise about cutting their production, and then yes, they are, and no, they're not, and then the Russians say no. And keep in mind too that there's other factors that affect this, and right now one of the big ones is Venezuela. They are sitting on the 6th largest oil reserves on the planet Earth, and they are in complete and utter and total chaos. Even the crude oil that they've had in production is it's extremely marginal because, you know, typical socialist regime, that keeping things in repair, that you don't need that stuff. Well, that's not working out for them real well either. So they tried to nationalize a bunch of that stuff, and the U.S. oil producers pulled out. So now they have nobody to maintain the production they've got, let alone explore for new. And between that and there's a lot of oil in Africa also, and that has lots of political problems. There's, you know, from time to time there's a bunch of nutcases that go in and blow up their pipelines, which doesn't make it too easy to get that stuff, you know, to market. So all those things all affect the supply. And since crude oil is a deliverable commodity, the supply and demand is what it tends to function off of for the big money. The small retail traders like us that are taking our little 1 and 2 contracts, we'd like to ride on the coattails of the big operators, but there's been very little of that happening. So even scalping this has been difficult. When it's like this, if you are a scalper and you like to scalp, the 6 tick that's the definitely the thing to use, because 12 ticks is I mean, I suppose you could trade it. It's just not my cup of tea, that's all. The VIX, this morning it was down in the mid tens. It's coming up a little bit. I mean, it couldn't get much lower. It's trading 1081 right now. So this has just been a really tough week to trade. Lots of chop, and sometimes I know Lori likes that ping pong trade thing she does. I've never I've never paid too much attention to that because I just don't like that kind of thing. But it can be done. You just have to use a smaller tick uh, chart, because the tens and twelves in this environment tend to be a little bit tough. This morning we had a bunch of news numbers and a lot of this economic stuff that was released. I think maybe the governor of the uh, Royal Bank of Australia may have, at least he seems to have gotten a stop put to the Aussie dollar falling as much as it was. But the U.S. Uh, core durable goods, this is not a good thing. It was way down this morning. The unemployment claims were up a little bit, not a huge amount, but the durable goods and the core durable goods month over month, those orders for the U.S. were were not very encouraging. That's for sure. Pending home sales were down quite a bit also. So that's kind of making some of this stuff a little jittery. I don't know how many people in here trade spreads and go for the premium collection on those spreads. But when that stuff is available in these choppy markets, it's a good time to look for it, because until there's some kind of a breakout, likely not a big trend. And Aaron makes an excellent point. I hope everybody in here goes back and checks the comments that both Aaron and Craig make, because they're really, really good. And if you're listening to this because you weren't in the room today or something, Aaron's talking about in this kind of an environment, you just not only do you have to practice peeing a lot, but you have to get a lot more patient to wait for those setups. And that can get to be pretty boring. So there is a happy medium. A lot of these indicators that we have an audio alert on them. And I had all my audio alerts on because I thought, oh, what wonderful thing, the ninja guy is going to tell me when this and that and the next thing happens. And pretty soon I had so many alerts going, I couldn't keep track of them all. It was making me crazy. So I'm a lot more selective about which ones I want, but that does help direct your attention when something is coming along. So you might go into your indicators and check the alerts for some of the things that you want to be at least aware of, to kind of wake you up out of your blank stare. And the other thing you can do is I've shown this a couple times, but in the indicators, I'll show you on camera. There is I think it's under P for price. Yeah, price alert. The Apex Diagnostic Price Alert. You can get one of these, and you can actually put two of them on. Be sure when you put one on your chart that you change the price. It doesn't matter to what, but something that goes to that instrument. I mean, if you're looking for 1.026 on crude oil, that's not going to work out real well for you. But just to get it on your chart, because this thing will drag and drop. You can drop it right in. I'll show you how this works. This is really pretty cool. Um, so you can take this thing and, for example, if you wanted to be alerted when it was going to break out the low of the day, if it's going to break to the south side, then you can drag this thing down here and put it at I don't know, 48.20 or a couple of ticks inside, so you 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 have a chance to make an evaluation, and you'll get a doorbell sound on that thing. And you can put one if you thought, well, if it's going to break out of the expected range box up here, or if it's going to go up here and break out of this power line on the last time it put a power line in off of this E, you can put another one, put it here. So as long as it's playing around in there, you just kind of ignore it. But you will get a doorbell when you get to a spot that you wanted to be aware of a potential trade. So I kind of like having that on charts, especially if I want to step away and do something else. It'll let's see, somebody's asking, how do I put all this together? Okay. Susanna, you need to, number one, you need to load Jing, which is a freebie, so you can put a screenshot in here. Anybody that is new, one of the first things you need to do is download Jing. It's a freebie. There is a post in the forum on the website of exactly how to use it. You will use it 1,000 times in here. It's really easy once you get the hang of it. And then when you have a question or you want to ask something, you can take a screenshot of it and then put your question right on there. So somebody will pick that up and sometimes 2 or 3 people will. So you get a lot of feedback on what you were asking for. But our problem with trying to help you is that we can't see from here to there. So it really helps. It helps everybody in the room help everybody else in the room. Plus, you get a lot of good pointers and tips, and you can see how other people have their charts set up. So not that you want to do yours exactly that way, but you get really good ideas sometimes about, gee, I hadn't thought about that before. So Jing is the big thing. And you also, Susanna, have to use the template. If you right-click in the middle of your chart, you right-click, you can go down here to templates, and you can do load. If you open this up, there's a whole menu of a whole bunch of different charts. They're already pre-made. If you want the iZone beginner, you want the iZone with the gray background or the black background or whatever it is you want, that's where you find those. Okay? So tomorrow morning, in the way of news coming out, a bunch of economic numbers will be released from Europe tomorrow morning real early. Let's see, that starts, looks like it's going to start about 1 o'clock in the morning with the Japanese housing starts. And at 1:30, they start in Europe pushing these numbers out from 1:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the morning. At 8:30 tomorrow morning is going to be both U.S. and Canadian numbers, and there's a significant U.S. number. It's the advanced GDP, and this is quarter over quarter. So this is being watched uh, with avid interest by the big boys. 9:45 we have Chicago PMI, and then at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning we'll have the revised University of Michigan numbers. So, and that will be the last day of the, yeah, when does the government shut down? I sure hope that doesn't happen. I don't think they're going to let that happen. They all like to talk a lot, but I don't know. If that should occur,